bridges, bridges in the sky are shining in the sun. They are stone and steel, and water. They are languages of others, they are poetry and all. They are love and understanding, and they're better than they are languages of others, they are poetry and all. They are love and understanding, and they're better than all. There are canyons, there are canyons, they are yawning and high. They are rank and better anger, they are all the boys lie. They are fear and blind suspicion, they are apathy and pride. They are dark and soul-provoking, and their hopes so very high. They are fear and blind suspicion, they are apathy and pride. They are dark and soul-provoking, and their hopes so very high. Let us build a bridge of music, let us cross the song. Let us span another canyon, let us ride. Oh, and if someone should ask us where and bow today, we will tell them building bridges and we are on our way. Oh, and if someone should ask us where we're up and bow today, we will tell them building bridges and we are on our way. We will tell them building bridges and we are on our way.
We will tell them building bridges and be off and on our way. Thank you, Bill Staines, for Bridges Song, for Bridges Programming. My name is Jeff Bella. Next to me is Susan Coleman, and on the phone with us, as normal, is Dennis Carius. I don't know how normal he is, but normally there. And if you, and I'm
just how normal we are.
And look how normal we are. And look at this thing in the video here. It's not a video; it's a live thing going on. What is that? Is that a reflection or is that the sun coming up?
I have no idea, but that's a strange viewing effect with all the chains and the
guy
wires holding our deck up.
I'm just putting it out there to show people that we're in a different location
other
than Florida and actually Washington, D.C. This is out in the country. And
we're not in Washington.
We were last time.
Yeah, but now we're further north.
Back up in West Alone, New York, which is where we live.
Right. And it's early spring still.
Right, I'm going to put this over here. Maybe this will be a better place to put this. Well, I can put it over here. So that's the story. I'm going to look right at the camera.
The book is in here. Move that away. You don't want that in front of your face.
Well, I can move this. Whoa! I'm knocking everything over here. Okay, let me put that
for now,
over
we won't do that.
Okay, we did it. So it's too late now. This has to go right about there. And that
you
would
don't
be better.
put that right in front of your head.
Okay, that'll be there. And I got to fix this. So I'm going to just change the view and I'm going to fix the camera a bit. Okay, Dennis, hello. How are you? Dennis?
Oh, Dennis is doing great. He wants to welcome Jeff and Susan back up north, New York State.
Well, we're going to be talking a little bit about the Pope today, Dennis.
Well, we're going back to some of what he said in the summertime when he visited Congress.
Good.
And spoke to Congress, and he's still, actively trying to
change the world,
make things better for everyone. He met with Syrian refugees recently, took some of them back to the Vatican with him. I think that was meant as a, he's doing what he's saying.
He's doing a token.
And he can't save everybody, but he's saying that all countries should take a percentage of the refugees until, there are, this crisis is either over or population of Syria just leaves because they're acting so crazy there. The king doesn't want to relinquish any power, and the companies that use the country for oil transport don't want to relinquish any power. And meanwhile, the people are saying, we live here and we'd like to live peacefully here and continue our lives. And these things that are being fought over have nothing to do with us. But of course, they're using the populations to create. They are attacking the people themselves, both sides, to create chaos and to confuse the issue, which the issue is power and economics, and the economics of oil is very much alive, and people are, who have the what is it, majority ownership of these companies do not want to relinquish their profits. Of course, it's interesting now how there's complaining and yowling so hard about how their prices are so low.
Let me comment on
Feel any sympathy
on your
for
statements here, because
Go ahead.
as Dennis would say, well, it's all about oil, but it's all about the economy. And
Well, I'm just talking about the economy of oil.
well, but it's all about the economy across the board.
Yeah.
And when people don't have their basic needs met, and they're getting bombed and they're having major problems with their life, they leave. And
Right.
that's why
If they can, they leave, or they're killed, or they're injured so that they can't leave. They try to send to a safe place their children.
So anyway, that's why we do this programming, by the way. There's something you can do, I think, to help change the way we do business, just like Pope Francis said. He said, we have to change the way we're doing business. And he means that not so much about the environment, but he blames the economy for the environment problems. He blames the environment for the problem we're having worldwide by killing people.
The environment?
He blames the economic system for the environment problem.
Okay.
And he blames the problem we have with refugees around the world, including Africa, because of the environment. Because of the economics. And that's why we're here. This is brought to you by the Human Renewable Energy Measurement, or measure. It's a measurement, something we can actually measure that says all human beings must have their needs met. If their needs are not met, they're going to die. And that's the problem we're having. Money is not based, in fact, on reality as far as human needs met are. It's based on money and has no meaning whatsoever. You can't tell me what a dollar is worth, or even a bar of gold is worth. It has no value according to physics and science. What has value for human beings is their quality of life and how easy it is to get their food and shelter, and of course, education. So education is a primary thing. So I'm going to try to explain this again and again and again. And what you could do about this, what you could do is something you could do to change these things. If you understand that every human being in the world is going to live about 80 years of age, more or less. Some will live 110. Some will live 60. Some will have accidents and die younger. But most people live about 80 years of age with today's knowledge and technology. So 80 years is a very good number for us to work with according to science. We all use about 1 million energy units of food, that's sun energy, for water and food. So that's 2 million energy units. We can call them calories because we can understand that a little better, a year. And we all need a certain amount of shelter to keep us safe, minimal amount of shelter. And that can be measured also in energy units. So some smart guy out there who understands what we're talking about and is a physicist or a mathematician can do an axiom on this, and we can actually measure it even better. But right now, in physics, we know we need education, and that should be wide open because the more educated people are, and it doesn't cost anything to educate anybody, especially in today's world. And I'm sure most people didn't pay their parents for their education on what foods to eat, how to dress, and go to school. And then school takes over for higher learning theoretically, but now we can do everything online, as Dennis would say. And we would go to the next thing and say that we all have to have a certain amount of food. And then some people would argue with me that it would be, well, it's nutrition, it's not calories, but I think it's both. But let's just to simplify it, let's call it energy units or calories. And we all need liquid, which is water, and that comes from the sun's evaporation. So those are things we must have, their basic needs met. Now what makes us human beings is our wants. Our wants are different than our needs, and we all have different wants in most cases. A few people have the same wants, but most people have different wants. And that's gives you 23 more hours a day to work, because if you, all basic needs because of technology can be met for about 1 hour of work a day. And that's according to, because there's so much technology and natural resources because of the technology. So there's the problem, and according to people who study this, I mean, I have to go by people who spend a lot more time than I have to spend. They spend lifetimes studying these things I'm bringing out to you. And you can either agree to it or not, but if you agree to it, here's what you could do to change everything. And I'll bring it out again as part of the program. You can help get this measurement into position. Use your internet, go to your church groups, whatever you could do to get the measurement into the vocabulary. Once it's in the vocabulary, then we can sort of go from the bottom up, just like, pardon me, the measurement for gravity. We need to make sure that we all agree, that all humanity has to have their basic needs met, no matter where you are on this spaceship planet, this planet Earth, this spaceship Earth, this house that has 200 rooms in it that we keep on killing our neighbors in our own house. We have to stop doing that. That's what the Pope is saying. But without a measurement, we can't figure out what a fair trade would be, what a fair tax structure should be, what a fair minimum wage should be. Can't do that. It has to be a living wage. It has to be based on physics. Can't be based on anything but something physical. And when you get to your end life, where I'm slowly getting there, you realize how important physical things are. But the reality is I need someone who, let's say, moves dirt for me, digs a trench, puts a roof on, helps me carry things. They're more important to me than my doctor until I get sick. Then the doctor's important. But no human being should ever have to basically beg for their basic needs met. And that's where we're coming from. I'm going to ask Dennis in a few seconds. Dennis, make sure you're there. Do you agree with that statement or what?
I agree with that statement, Jeff.
Okay, so what do you think we could do about getting our basic needs met? How do we move this forward?
Well, I think we could reform things if they ever get dysfunctional.
Well, how do you mean that?
Well, I'm just saying, if instead of like the left versus the right, Democrats versus Republicans, if now it's more like 99.9% of us being controlled by the upper 0.1%, the richest, the most powerful. And I'm not saying all of them. I'm just saying all you need is to have some of them that are so greedy, they are billionaires. They want to become trillionaires.
Well, so, look, Dennis, I'm a billionaire and I want to become a trillionaire. Am I greedy?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Not all of them, but if you to become a trillionaire, if you want to get that oil from the Middle East at like the lowest price possible, you take out a democratically elected leader like we did in Iran, put the Shah of Iran in there, you get a great price on oil.
Well, I just want to understand something. How do we make it a functional government?
Well, that's a really good question. We really need to reform things.
How do we do it?
For example, I mean, we're going to have a big election this year for our next president.
Well, we've always had elections, but we've always had elections over the past 20 years, and no one's even, we've been talking about this in my lifetime, for all my voting life, and we always vote in people, and we get these amendments made, and we get these bills passed, and we have all kinds of amendments and bills, but it doesn't seem to work.
Well, that's why I like doing this show with you and Susan, because if I turn on mainstream media, I'm getting brainwashed about,
Well, how do we get, the question still remains, how do we change it? How do we make government so it works for the majority of the population?
Well, maybe everybody should get their basic needs met.
How?
Well, if they just do a very minimum amount of work each week, they would get the food, the shelter, and the education for them and their children that is needed.
Okay, so let us go back. So you're saying we need an agreement, a social agreement, that all humanity says all basic needs must be met, right?
Right.
And we can do, and you said a minimal amount of time. And we figured that by talking to people who understand what natural resources are, about 1 day a week would do that. If everybody worked 1 day a week, that gives them 6 more days a week to do what they choose. They can do nothing, or they could worship, or they could play music, or they could do art, or they could just keep on making things that help humanity too. So basically 1 day a week or 1 hour a day would give all humanity their basic needs met. So if we can agree upon that as a species, we would definitely reform our government, wouldn't we?
Yes, we would.
And then we have to so we know that education's beneficial for all. Education, food, and shelter has to be met. And then the laws are really simple to change, because we say, well, we're going to judge how well a country does by how well they take care of their population by giving them their basic needs met. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so I think we've accomplished something, because we know that. Now the next question is, if we agree upon that, how do we get there?
Well, see, that's the problem. If 99% of us agree upon that, we still might not get there if the upper 1% says, no, we're not going to go there.
Well, could we get there by we have no control over the upper 1%, do we?
No, you're right, no control.
Okay, so what I'm saying is, if we do it without concerning ourselves with them, we all agree, the whole world starts to put in this measurement into position, the HREM, Human Renewable Energy Measure, and we put it into the vocabulary, calling it the HREM. The HREM, the Human Renewable Energy Measure. Okay, don't go into detail. So anyway, so we go ahead and we figure this out, that all humanity has to have their basic needs met with the HREM, and we put that measurement into the language. It doesn't matter what you call it. It's an agreed upon measurement. We can call it something different, but right now we're calling it the HREM. So I'm suggesting that that's how we do this. And Dennis, what can you do to get this to happen? What can an individual do to make this happen? And that helps the Pope, by the way. It helps Bernie Sanders. It helps the people who are thinking about doing this.
And speaking about it.
How can you and I help do this?
Well, Dennis could help by doing a show with Jeff and Susan.
That's right.
That's one way.
Well, what else?
Well, to just
people he knows.
Get the word.
Talking to people.
Right now, when you go out, you meet your family on the weekends, and you meet friends, and you belong to lots of groups, and you have listservs. You could put all that out on what you got, couldn't you?
Anybody can.
Anybody could do that. Not just you. Everybody could do that.
Yes.
On Facebook, on Twitter.
And may I summarize what someone who has one of the biggest soapboxes right now, that anyone can have on on this planet.
Right.
Right.
This
And this is Pope Francis. He has one of the biggest soapboxes. And here's what he's doing. He, and I took notes while he was addressing Congress this last summer, that would be 2015, summer of 2015. And I took notes and I tried to get them as verbatim as I could. And some of them, are a little missing a few words or whatever, but the meaning is there. He kept coming back again and again to what his job was and what the Congress's job was, and the main overarching problem that he kept coming back to was economics. He called it an economics that's seeking. We don't have an economics that seeks to be modern, inclusive, or sustainable. And his assertion is that that's what we need, a modern, inclusive, sustainable economics. And so he's opened his address with and this is verbatim, quote, "In the land, I am in the land of the free and the home of the brave," and unquote. And when I heard him say that, I could hear there was not only, respect implied with that, but also a certain sense of humor, because he knows as well as anyone that all attempts at democracy that anyone has done, any country has done on the earth, have not accomplished what they hope to accomplish yet. But this doesn't mean it can't happen. But here we go. He says, he says, what my responsibility is. He says, it is my duty, quote, to build bridges. So this is what he was doing. He's the bridge builder. That's the definition of his job, let's put it that way. It's an avocation or whatever, his life goal. And what he was doing at the Congress here in the United States was trying to build bridges. And he's saying to the politicians in front of him, a good political leader, one who is one who has the interest of all in mind, initiates processes, is not just taking up space, that he has the interest of everyone in mind. He goes on to say that the effects of our unjust economic structures, we cannot continue to use these structures that are clearly unjust for most of the population of the world. He said we must restore hope and the well-being of individuals, but we move forward as one in unity and generosity for the common good. So to be an individual doesn't mean that you're not also able to work with the rest of the population, of the human population. They are not they don't contradict each other or stop each other from functioning. They enhance each other. He goes on to say that the U.S. Congress, they have an important part to play. They need to have in mind that we're combating poverty and at the same time protecting nature. And he suggests that our technology can put at the service of these processes, more humane processes, more integral, more socially humane processes that eliminate poverty and protect nature. And this, of course, he's talking about the way that we're practicing economics. Then he asks the question, why? Why are deadly weapons allowed? And he answers it simply, for money. And in the face of this is a shameful, culpable silence. And I'm sure that he was looking at our Congress when he said that. There is, and he speaks about the crisis of the refugee crisis, and this was in summer, still going on now, 5 years. Our world is facing, quote, a refugee crisis of a magnitude never seen since the end of World War II. Okay? He outlined.
He also missed the genocide that happened in Africa too. He didn't talk about that.
Well, he's just talking about what's going on right now of a magnitude. Right, exactly, you're right. He then, went on to talk about 3 of the American, United States citizens over history who have worked toward the goals that he as a bridge maker feel, were, the right direction. I won't go into that, but he's speaking to.
He named the 3 people.
Oh, okay, Martin Luther King, Dorothy Day, and Abraham Lincoln. Well, 4 actually, Thomas Merton also.
But there was also Martin Luther King. There were so many.
No, that's what I just said.
Right.
But these are just the people who became essentially the superstars, or the ones that we are willing as a culture or in terms of history to acknowledge their role in terms of humane and humanitarian activities. When you see just a few names like that, you know that there are thousands and millions of other people who are never named and are working along these same lines, just as Dennis or Jeff and I our names will never be recorded anywhere in history, and most names never are. But there are many, many people working and writing and thinking along these lines about how we can change our economics to one that to modernize it. It has to be inclusive. It has to have as its goal to provide shelter, food, and education to everyone. It has to be inclusive. It has to be redesigned to the benefit of humans, not to the benefit of profit, which it does now. And he goes on. In the end, he says of his address, he wants to end on a hopeful note, and the way that our country has always been sort of defined, the American dream and all that. He refers to that at the end, just as referred to at the very beginning, that we are thought of as the land of the free and the home of the brave. But he says, quote, this is a country that has inspired so many people to dream. And this is an important sort of activity. It isn't the American dream as that would define, okay, you're going to get real rich if you come to the United States, or you're going to become
a human dream.
This is a dream
for humanity.
For humanity.
We're going to take a little break now. This is brought to you by Bridges Program. This is World Call In, and this is a Pat Humphrey song, and it's about we're all together. Listen to the words. We're back in about 4 minutes. Thank you.
We are living a great big river. We are washed by the very same rain. We are swimming in the stream together. Some in power, some in pain. We can worship this ground we walk on, cherishing the beings that we live beside. Loving spirits will live forever. We're all swimming to the other side. I am alone, I am certain.
like invitation to receive a sign. I move forward, my senses open. Imperfection in me, my pride. In humility, I will listen. We're all swimming to the other side. We are living in the great big river. We are washed by the very same rain. We are swimming in the stream together. Some in power, some in faith. We can worship this ground we walk on, cherishing the things that we live beside. Loving spirits will live forever. We're all swimming to the other side. On this journey through thoughts and feelings, finding intuition, my head, my heart. I am gathering the tools together. I'm preparing to do my part. All of those who come before me, stand together and be my guide. Loving lessons that I will follow. We're all swimming to the other side. We are living in the great big dipper. We are washed by the very same rain. We are swimming in the stream together. Some in power, some in faith. We can worship this ground we walk on, cherishing the beings that we live beside. Loving spirits will live forever. We're all swimming to the other side. When we get there, we'll discover all of the gifts we've been given to share. Have been with us since life's beginning, and we never noticed they were there. We can balance the great wisdom, never recognizing that we've arrived. Loving spirits will live together. We're all swimming to the other side. We are living in the great big dipper. We are washed by the very same rain. We are swimming in the stream together. Some in power, some in faith. We can worship this ground we walk on, cherishing the beings that we live beside. Loving spirits will live forever. We're all swimming to the other side. Loving spirits will live forever. We're all swimming to the other side.
Thank you, Pat Humphrey. That was called "Swimming to the Other Side" out of the album "Hands" by Pat Humphreys, and she's a great folk singer, along with Bill Staines and many others. But it fits what we're trying to do on World Call, and we're trying to change the way we do business, and that's what the Pope is asking us to do. And that's what we need to do, but we can't do it without a measurement to say how we do this. As Dennis, did you happen to get online by some chance? I only see a few people on there.
Oh, no, I tried, I said live, but it's not showing today's show. I didn't see it.
Okay, well, I know it's there because I know there's other people on, so I just was curious to get your report on what the new studio looks like.
We'll have to get a better view out the window.
Yeah, well, but I just couldn't put the camera outside because it's raining out. I didn't want to put the camera out for weather.
No, of course not.
But this will be a better view once we get
May
going.
showers bring May flowers.
April showers is no longer April. Climate change is about coming. Okay, I'm going to come back to inside the studio now, and this is again World Call In, and it's Bridges Programming. It's brought to you by the HRM, Human Renewable Energy Measure, and we also sponsor Renew the Earth, which is a nonprofit organization that talks about renewable energy and what good things are happening all over the country. You can also go online and get the book that's in front of me now called Illyria's World that Susan wrote. Spent a lot of time doing that and illustrated it.
It's about climate change.
Climate change, and about a robot and a granddaughter. And it's a sort of a fictional
Experiencing China. It's fictional. It's a cartoon.
Well, it's a cartoon, but there's also
They're having fictional adventures with climate change.
But there's also a real robot and a real person.
And a real climate change.
And a real climate change. So it's fictional to a degree. What else can I tell you about what's going on? Anyway, and we need to get more people to get involved with our programming. Please, if you can do some programming and some shows, join us, as long as they're humanitarian shows. It really seems to be very hard to have people commit themselves for an hour or two a week to do a program that is based on trying to help world population. It's very, very difficult for some reason. People don't want to seem to get involved with it. They're afraid to speak their piece. And everybody's entitled to their own ridiculous opinion, according to myself and some friends of mine. But we need to give our opinions out, no matter how you think that they would be. Okay, Dennis, did I hear you in the background?
No, that wasn't Dennis, bro.
Okay, well, did you try to get on again by some chance? I'm just curious. No, I guess not. Okay, well, if you can, just try to do it. If not, you can watch us after the program's over. You'll see a broadcast, because we broadcast these. This is also on many other feeds, audio feeds as well as video, but mainly audio feeds. And again, you need what people need to do is, if they want to do something to make a difference, you don't have to join us or send money or your firstborn or anything. All you need to do is just use your mind. How do we get this measurement into the vocabulary, the human renewable energy measure? That's all we need to do. And if we can get that, just get that little bit done. And then once that happens, the way our politicians will realize that they must judge the rest of the rooms in this building, and the rooms in our spaceship and the rooms on this planet, the countries, and how well they treat their population, their basic needs met, their education, food, and shelter, and not in the form of money, not how many billions of dollars it's going to cost or trillions of dollars, but in how many energy units they make sure that their population has to stay alive, how well their education system works, and how well they provide shelter and help the basic shelter met. And that'll give people free in a matter of a short amount of time, because everybody alive has their basic needs met now, otherwise they'll die. But it needs to be done in a short amount of time. And that time cannot be measured in money. It has to be measured in hours of life left in the body. Physical needs. That's the most important thing. Quality of life, physical needs, all humanity. It's so simple, and that's what the Pope is saying. That's what Sanders is saying, and that's what we need to get our politicians to understand, and we need the rest of the world to say, yes, we agree upon that. All humanity must have their basic needs met for a minimal amount of effort a day or a week, and then they have the rest of the week and the rest of the day to do what they choose to do. That's true freedom. The way we talk about freedom and democracy now is nonsense. It has no meaning. It's just words, empty words. And that's the problem with why people are attacking us, because we're killing people around the world. We don't want to kill people around the world, but we are. We're not doing anything about it.
There are entities killing people in the name of our country.
Right. And they say, well, the U.S.
Right.
Well, it's not me. It's not me,
It's
but
like
I'm part of it.
Our terrorists operating in the name of religions and doing terrorism.
It's not the Muslims killing people. It's terrorism killing people because of the actions that we are all doing. we keep on blaming things and blaming other things, but it's not. It's what we are doing as a species. We need to stop killing one another in the name of whatever, because it's all about the money. We need to change the money sequence. It has to be based on physical needs met by all of humanity.
Again, physical needs of humans.
Of humans, for all of humanity. Oh, that,
I know.
okay, so anyway, so that's something that we're looking at. So Dennis, what's going on with you now that we're back in New York? What do you want to do about it?
Wow, I think we got to get together and be on the same stoop. I really think it's great that we're in the same state now. And
Does
when we
it feel different?
What that?
Does it feel different?
Well, does it feel different? I feel like I'm closer to you now.
You really,
But it's psychological.
but it's all psychological. It's like our economic system, right?
Yeah, so you mentioned about, terrorism and all this stuff. When we talk about those, they say Muslims are terrorists, I honestly think that so much of that, quote, terrorism, end quote, is being provoked by our dependence on oil that's over in the Middle East, where those Muslims are from. That oil, yeah, we've got to get it out of the ground for the lowest price possible. So, like I mentioned in Iran, we took out the democratically elected leader, we put the Shah of Iran in there, and then we got a good price on oil.
We're getting a good price on oil now, are we not? Isn't oil prices the lowest it's been in years? As a matter of fact, the oil companies are laying people off, and they're crying that they're not making money for the stockholders. But let me tell you a little story, Dennis. I own stock in ExxonMobil, one share. And I get, and then my stock, my money coming in is the same as it was when it was high. So that's a lot of nonsense. They're lying about how much money they're losing because the stockholders are still getting the same amount of money.
That's interesting. Yeah, it keeps going up.
That's right.
Yeah.
So what is this lies we're being told? Lies upon lies.
The stockholders are definitely not reducing what they're getting.
I'm getting my stock money the same way I did when the prices were high.
And now that they're going down, it's the same, you're saying.
Exactly.
Yeah, and we're going up.
So I don't believe in all this.
They artificially suppressed, from what I understand. It started with Saudi Arabia.
Well, that's what they're telling us, but I don't believe any of it.
But that if you consider that, then what's the domino effect from that? They're trying to squeeze out the new players in the field of oil sales, and they think, well, we'll lower our price way down, and these people won't be able to continue to operate.
The question is, where does the truth lie?
But it turns out that they had a lot more resources than the Saudis considered, because most of them are still staying in the game at the lower price. So the lower price was clearly quite sufficient to support any oil industry. Well, that's what it does to me.
What they're doing is
they were making so much obscene profit before, but now they're just making, instead of obscene profit, 10 times, they're making obscene profit maybe 5 times, and it doesn't even compute for normal people to even think about it, as normal people, because we can't even conceive of the amount of monies that are being made in the energy industry. Energy is a completely dominant industry. The fossil fuel and all the different ramifications of it. It's like trying to imagine what trillions and trillions of dollars looks like. Not too many people can visualize that. Maybe a physicist, as a mental game.
By the way, we asked a physicist.
But most people can.
We asked a physicist, by the way, on what a billion looks like, and he said, take a 3-foot.
A trillion.
I don't remember a billion or a trillion.
Oh, I don't know.
I thought it was a billion, but he said, just take a 3-foot by 3-foot square piece of paper, a meter by meter, about 3 feet, and make a whole bunch of little lines about a 1/16 of an inch, crisscross
grid,
like
yeah.
a grid, and wherever they come together, that's a billion. So that's what that's what a billion looks like. You can visualize that, but it's still pretty.
Only where they come, I don't know, that didn't
Well,
visualize it for
when
me.
you have all these 16-inch spaces coming down.
So that whole thing is a
and
billion?
then you
This
go
way?
this way, and wherever they cross,
Yes.
that makes up a billion little crosses.
Within that cross?
Within the cross is one.
Represents
And,
1
and a
million?
3 foot by 3 foot
Is a
section
trillion.
is a billion from what he told me. I couldn't.
Well, each cross should be not a billion, it should be
One.
1.
And then you have 3
What's the
foot,
total?
a billion.
If 1 billion is the cross, it can't also be the mass, Jeff.
No,
What are you talking about?
The way you figure out a billion, the way he explained it was you have a 3 foot by 3 foot piece of paper. And every 16th of an inch, you put a mark, and you draw a line straight down.
Yes.
Then you do a 16th of an inch on the side and put lines this way, and wherever the two lines meet is 1. And when you add them all together, it would be 1 billion.
Oh, okay, it's 1, but not 1 billion.
Right,
You said 1 billion.
one-
Is 1.
One cross.
Is
is one,
1,
but
and
there's
then
a
all
billion,
of them
a billion.
represent a billion.
I think
Okay,
it's a
that
billion.
makes
Maybe it's a million.
whatever it is, but
Whatever.
it's more than most people can visualize.
It's a lot of stuff. So you can start.
So when you think about a trillion, you know that's
You just
outrageous.
You can just.
So these companies are working with those kind of numbers. So when they say
But
they're
the numbers are
reducing
irrelevant.
their prices, you know, there's also a political ramifications for that, because now the prices are still low, supposedly, but now the prices are creeping up at the gas tank. You know, when you buy the fuel for your car, for your truck, the fuel prices are creeping up
They're trying
again.
to
So
keep
what's
them-
that got to do with?
Well,
It has nothing to do with.
It's all interconnected for the economy. That's the problem. The
Well,
economy,
to maximize profit, that's
the
what
economy
it's.
is controlling all our political things.
And meanwhile, we're totally out of the loop. We're just victims of whatever
And people think it's
is
too much.
happening.
It's too much to deal with. However, there is something you can do. And what you can do is help get into the vocabulary, the HREM, the Human Renewable Energy Measure. If we can get that word, just like gravity we got in there, just like time that the economic system got in there, there are ways of measuring things, and we must have that into the vocabulary before we can change anything
In the economic
in
system.
the economic system. And once we change the economic system, we then can have a functional government. We then can get rid of the word greed, because it won't matter. All humanity has their basic needs met. So it's just a question of being ambitious. You may want to work your butts off to have 15 cars or 20 cars or 50 houses or whatever.
Like Jay Leno.
Like Jay Leno or whatever. But if that's what you want, you have the ability as an individual to do it. But as a collective, as a group of humanity to work together, not in competition, we need to get that basic measurement into
We need to cooperate for the basics, for the needs.
not in competition.
And then you
cooperation.
have the opportunity to have time to be an individual.
Well, and human nature we do have competitions like in sports, but when we take the competition to a point where it's killing other people, there's no longer competition, it becomes insanity. And when you hurt other people for no reason, there is no reason. If we have all our abundance and we can share the basic
you're going
needs
back
met,
to what
what the Pope said.
and what Buckminster Fuller asserted in his writings too.
We were going to try to bring Buckminster Fuller back with us. We brought him back from Florida with us. We dug him up and brought him back. And a lot of people saw him on the way over here.
He said there is no energy crisis. There's only a crisis of ignorance.
Right,
So-
and that's the problem. We don't have a problem, by the way, and there's no problem with the Muslims. There's no problem with Syria. There's no problem with anything we're doing. There is a problem with our ignorance, our stupidity, by not understanding that we can measure the basic needs met. We can do these things and do it in such a way that it helps all humanity. And that's what we're trying to do.
We don't have to complicate it any more than education, food, and shelter. It will become much more elaborate as these first needs are satisfied. Then you have the the subtler needs of humans are being met because we're communicating more with each other. We're have time to communicate, time to interact with our children in a significant way, with our neighbors. We're not just jumping in our cars and commuting to work and spending 8 hours there, then coming home.
Doing a job that does no good, by the way. Doing a job that has no value. You're pushing papers that do nothing to help physical society. It's just a question of keeping the money flowing for the very wealthy, for the people who just as Dennis was called them, greedy, but they're just ambitious people who learn how to play a game that is totally insane. Dennis, I've invited people to my game that I have in my house. I told them to come over here, we're going to play a game of musical chairs, just bring some money with you. And when you walk in the door, I'm going to give you $1,000. And there'll be maybe 50 people here, or 20 people, and everyone's going to have, we'll be able to have 49 chairs, but I'm not getting out of my chair. It's my house, my game. So when you bring a few bucks with you, I'm going to give you $1,000 when you walk in the door, and we're going to play music. And as soon as the music stops, one person's not going to have a seat. I always have a seat, of course. And then
because you're running the game.
I'm running the game. And then we shoot.
You own the chairs.
And then we shoot that.
And the room.
We shoot that person, and I take the $1,000 back, and I actually share that $1,000 with everybody in the whole rest of the room.
Well, that keeps people thinking that they're not going to get shot.
Right, and everybody gets an extra $1,000 shared, and then another person gets shot.
That person was just unlucky.
Right.
I'm not going to get.
And then all of a sudden, the next person gets shot, and then after a while, there's only 2 chairs left. There's me and the other guy.
And then you know
all of a sudden, the music's going to stop, and he's going to lose a seat. He's out. I got back all my money, all his life, and all his life savings that he took with him.
Plus everybody else's.
Plus everybody else's stuff. So that's the way the game is played. The game is rigged, and we need to change that game. And the way you change it is talk about the HREM to your friends and family. Get whatever idea you could use to get this message out, do it. It's not, I can't do this, we can't do this. Dennis, you all can do this. Everyone has a responsibility to understand the measurement and to get it out. A lot of people don't want to understand the measurement. It's very interesting.
It makes them nervous. I
spoke to a very poor person in Florida recently, and he came out of jail, and I explained this to him. He said, well, most people don't want to understand what you're talking about because it means that most humanity will have equal footing.
And we've heard that comment from somebody who is
a professor,
not formally educated. People don't want to understand, and from an individual who is highly educated and formally educated. People don't want to understand. So, but this understanding is across the spectrum of people. No matter, it's an intuitive understanding that people, will block out, maybe what seems like it'll make too much change in their lives, or doesn't compute with what they've been taught, or why everything's working the way it works. It is what it is. That kind of philosophy. And to go back to what Pope Francis said, that we're living with global forms of slavery, and he's saying they can only be overcome by new forms of social consensus. We're facing a crisis. You can face a crisis and deny that it's there and do nothing, like the crisis of climate change. We can continue to burn fossil fuels and use them with great abundance and very little thought. In the many ways that we do. It's not just driving our cars, and that isn't trying to come to some new consensus. That isn't trying to solve a problem. That's just ignoring a problem. That's another way of
And
saying
you don't want to
that you
ignore it
don't
because
want
it's
to
too
understand
difficult, right?
it. It's not too difficult to solve. This is not too
And
difficult to
we
solve.
need to at least
There is-
face facts.
This is not a, I mean, if somebody can understand it who has not been formally educated, and somebody who is formally educated, you know, to a very, to the best possible degree that we can do at this point, can understand it. And
Anybody can understand.
Anybody.
It's just a
And
question.
it is a
You have to
natural
want to
thing.
understand it. Please call your media, call your papers, try to get this message out. That's what you could do about it. You don't have to spend money. Don't join groups. Just get, if you understand it,
At
get the
some
message
point,
out, the HREM.
When we are actually practicing what we're talking about on this program, you know, that the economics will serve humanity by allowing a minimum amount of our work lives to be applied to food, shelter, and education at a non-monetary level. It is an agreement, and then the free market takes over. When that is happening, we will look back and say, wow, you know, that was such a natural thing that should have been going on so much longer, and why did it take people so long to make that transition? You know,
Thank you all.
that's one of the mysteries of life.
Thank you, Dennis.
And the mysteries of the way humans go forward with their species.
Thank you all for listening. Thank you, Dennis.
Oh, thank you, Jess. Thanks, Susan.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Dennis. We're back.
Please get this message out. The HREM, use it any way you can. That's what you can do about it. Please help get it to happen. Thank you.
It all comes down to energy.
Fossil fuel affects our life like ripples on a lake.
Cars and farms and factories and trucks.
Supplies go down and prices soar, our futures are at stake. And
When it's gone, it won't come back, and we'll be out of luck. Oh, energy, energy. It all comes down to energy. You wonder where the money's gone. Well, here's some fuel for thought. It all comes down to energy. We can get our energy from corn and grass and trees. Even trash converts to biofuels.
break loose from the stranglehold of oil companies. Renewables can fuel the world.
We're here to spread the news. Oh, energy, energy. It all comes down to energy. You wonder where the money's gone. Well, here's some fuel for thought. It all comes down to energy.